Welcome to this episode of Extravagant Generosity. We reflect on how the practice of generosity impacts our communities, touches our hearts, and works for a more just world. My name is Andrew Warner, Generosity Outreach Officer for the national setting of the United Church of Christ. I'm joined by Dave Sigmund and Kim Vasko of Three Great Loves. Today, we want to think with you about how to make a good start to an annual stewardship campaign. An effective campaign will name how our congregation will seek our deepest hopes, hold our enduring values, take faithful risks, express our heartfelt gratitude, all because of the gift of the donor.
Fundraisers call this the case statement. A case statement names and weaves together in meaningful ways the reason why a charity merits support. It reflects the vision of need and hope driving the organization, and it articulates how the nonprofit makes a difference in its community and the potential for an even greater impact. This is a place from which you can start planning your annual stewardship campaign by thinking through the case of your congregation, or in Three Great Loves language, thinking through the story of your congregation.
In many ways, the Three Great Loves express the case statement for the United Church of Christ as a whole. Certainly expresses the core commitments of the United Church of Christ as we live out Jesus' call to share God's love. Across our Christian movement, we embody God's love in three ways: love of children, love of neighbor, and love of creation.
The way we share God's love in our community, well, they may not look the same ways in another United Church of Christ congregation in their witness to God's love. Community contexts and focus may be different, but we're all united in a shared commitment to be God's hands and feet, to be God's love in making a just world for all.
Because it gets to the core values and mission of the UCC, we created a set of Three Great Loves stewardship theme materials. These materials can be found at uccresources.com. I'm excited about these stewardship theme materials and how they will help congregations tell the story of their impact in their communities and connect to the larger story of our Christian movement.
To make the Three Great Loves materials truly your own, gather a group of leaders to think about the case statement for your congregation. Gather together those key leaders, not just the leaders with a formal role in your congregation, but also those informal influencers whose good ideas positively shape the congregation. Ask yourself questions like these. What is the unique contribution of our church to our community, our region, and the country or the world? What distinguishes our congregation from other congregations? When do you see us expressing the love of children, of neighbor, or of creation? How do we change lives?
Use these questions to invite wide-ranging comments from leaders. As a group, note those places of consensus and those of divergence in what people discussed. Did any particular compelling stories of the church at its best emerge? The annual campaign should be rooted in the impact of the congregation in the community and beyond. Make sure you clearly articulate why your community matters, how it changes lives, and what your congregation does to share love.
Sometimes congregations only think of impact in terms of organizing a food pantry or some other social service or social justice activity. If this happens in your conversation, circle back to ask the group questions like, how does worship change our lives? How does the fellowship of this community impact us? When did pastoral care matter to our lives or music? Who experiences love within this congregation in life-changing ways?
Lastly, I'd like to invite you to reflect on two questions, one communal and one personal. How does the budget of our congregation reflect our commitment to Three Great Loves? And how does my generosity reflect my commitment to Three Great Loves?
All these questions will help you identify crucial stories of the impact of your congregation, the way you embody God's call to love. Even if you don't turn your brainstorming session into a written document, The energy of your meeting can be used to identify the leaders, speakers, and stories to use throughout your campaign.